listening to Season 4, Episode 5 of Vixen, a Black beauty and pop culture podcast. If you enjoy what you hear today, please leave a review anywhere you listen to podcasts. Today's episode is a very special one because it is our 1-year anniversary episode. Now, let's start the show. Hi guys, welcome back to an all new episode of Vixen. So before we get started with the excitement of today's episode, let me just say something about what I said in last week's episode. So in the Samantha Mumba show, I was saying that next week I'm going to bring the mood down a little bit. It's going to be a little bit of a sad episode. Y'all, I was not talking about this one. So, you guys, I was working really hard on the episode that I had planned for this week. When I was almost finished with it, I realized next week is my anniversary. So I was like, oh, no. We're gonna have to save this sad show for the following week, and I need to do an anniversary show. So just so you guys know, next week, the sad episode will come out, so brace yourselves for that. You will also hear me number the episode wrong. It'll be numbered right, like in Spotify or in Apple, wherever you listen to it. But I will say that it's episode 5, but it's not episode 5. Next week's episode is episode 6. I just forgot. I'm a horrible podcaster. I didn't realize that it was my 1-year anniversary. I'm so sorry, guys. So please ignore that error when you hear it. And yeah, let's get into today's special episode. So y'all, it has been 1 year since I launched the Vixen Black Beauty and Pop Culture podcast. I'm pausing just so I can let that set in a little bit. I cannot believe it. The very first episode that I put out was Jennifer Jackson, who was the very first Black woman to appear in Playboy. And it's kind of cool because I'm going to talk about Playboy a little bit in this episode. So it's kind of full circle to be doing that now, but I just want to let you guys know, thank you so much for all of the support that you've given over the year. All of the support that you guys have for not only the podcast, the Instagram page, the book club, the Instagram lives, absolutely everything. Thank you for the engagement when I do polls, everything. And to be at a year now doing this, I'm so happy that you guys get something out of it, that you guys come back every week and listen, because I can see my analytics and they be looking good. But honestly, I do this strictly because I want to educate other Black women about our history, about where we come from, about our beauty standards, our definition of beauty, all of those things. And I'm so happy that I have built a little bit of a community where we can all discuss these things together and enjoy these things together. And I don't want to tear up, so I'm going to stop. Oh my God, you guys have made me cry on an episode twice in a row. You'll probably hear me tear up a little bit on next week's episode. But nonetheless, it's happy tears. It's a good thing. Thank you guys so much for just interacting with me and enjoying the podcast and tuning in every week. Absolutely love it. Love you guys. And I'm so happy to do this for many more years to come. So since today is a special episode, I thought it would be fun to kind of pull out some stories from the vault, from the archives for y'all. So I'm going to do this every anniversary. Usually throughout the year, like I'll start working on a story and like not really like it, or I might leave it unfinished and move on to another one, or I might feel like it's just not enough information for a full episode, so I kind of just like leave them untouched. So I was thinking, for anniversaries now, I'm going to take those stories from the vault, spruce them up, finish them, whatever they need, and that will be the stories that we tell in these shows. Because I don't feel like just because there's not a lot of information about someone, I don't think that means they're not deserving of an episode. It's just that I'm going to put them in episodes with other people. So if you've listened to like my burlesque episode or like the Black Bond Girl episode, then you know how I'll do, like if it's not a lot of information, I'll put them in an episode with another topic. So that's what we're going to do today. Normally those kinds of episodes are more themed, like Black Bond Girls, Black burlesque dancers. So these anniversary episodes are going to be kind of random. They're just going to be like, you know, people from different eras and different topics, but I do hope that you guys enjoy them. So the first story from the vault, let's get into it. The first story is on Marie Bryant, one of the greatest dancers of all time. Let's get into it. Marie Bryant was born on November 6, 1917 in Meridian, Mississippi. Shortly after her birth, Marie and her family relocated to New Orleans. This is where young Marie came alive, y'all. She was constantly performing all over town, at church, in talent shows, all of it. By the age of 10, she was getting booked to do impersonations of Josephine Baker. At only 15 years old, her dance teacher asked her to join her annual show at the Regal Theater in Chicago. Her parents agreed, and Marie moved to Chicago, and she never looked back. So you guys know how, I think I've talked about it in, I'm not sure what episode it was, but we kind of talked about the Black migration and how a lot of Black people in Mississippi and New Orleans will migrate to Chicago or the West Coast or things like that. So I know it kind of sounds like she moved really, really far, but it's possible just with how the Black migration worked that Marie's family agreed to let her do this because they might have known people in Chicago. I wouldn't be surprised if they had family there already. So just thought I'd throw that little history tidbit in there. There's not much known about Marie's family or her early life, but I'm guessing her family really didn't put a fuss up about it because Chicago technically was familiar to them as it was to a lot of Black people living in that part of the South. So that's something to think about. When the Regal Theater show ended, Marie went on to dance with New Orleans native Louis Armstrong at the Grand Terrace Cafe in Chicago. So what she did in his show is she was a dancer and a singer for his floor show. The next year, Marie moved to Los Angeles to perform with jazz star Lionel Hampton. Once she finished this run, Marie was I don't know, maybe I want to go east. So she relocated to New York City, which was a great move because y'all know we was kind of having the Harlem Renaissance. There were a lot of amazing things happening with art, with music, with culture, with everything in Harlem at the time. So Marie settles in Harlem and she quickly books a gig dancing at the very famous Cotton Club, of course. I do have plans to do a full episode on the Black women of the Cotton Club. That will be coming very soon, probably next season. So anyway, at the Cotton Club, she crossed paths with Duke Ellington, who was quickly enamored with Marie and her skills. He asked her to come on tour with him. She agreed, and the rest was history. Marie toured with Duke Ellington and his orchestra for 3 years. After returning from touring, Marie became a featured dancer at the Apollo Theater, where she was very successful for many, many years. Ellington brought her on again for Jump for Joy, his very first musical, which later became a short film. Marie moved on from here to dance in musicals and films such as Carolina Blues, Beggar's Holiday, They Live by Night, Fancy Pants, The Gilded Cage, and many more. So I know it kind of sounds like I'm just running down Marie's resume, but it only sounds that way, y'all, because Marie was super booked and busy. And there was about, I want to say a 10 to 15 year period where she did nothing but work. Her life was just dance, sing, dance, sing, dance, sing. And the reason why Marie was so popular was because she was a very sexy dancer. She had come up with this new style of dancing. It was a control thing. So she could do all of these isolations, and she was really, really known for these amazing, beautiful costumes. I'll make sure I post some photos on Instagram. In between getting casted for roles, Marie would work as a dance instructor at the Dunham School. And the Dunham School is owned by famous dancer Katherine Dunham. I was actually thinking of working on an episode about Katherine Dunham. So if you guys want that, let me know. Here, Marie worked with Debbie Reynolds, Marlon Brando, Betty Grable, Ava Gardner, and many, many more of the old Hollywood stars. She would also be brought on as a dance choreographer for MGM, Columbia, Paramount, and 20th Century Fox, as if she wasn't busy enough. But those are all of the really, really big old Hollywood studios. So she was working with the creme de la creme. In 1948, Marie got a really big break when she became a headline act at the Florentine Gardens Club in LA, which later renamed itself the Cotton Club. So it was the LA version of the Cotton Club, but not owned by the same people, of course. While performing there, she took other dancers under her wing and taught them burlesque, period. But you're about to see why Marie is really a bad bitch, okay? So not only was she teaching them burlesque, she also taught them multiple forms of striptease, and she brought striptease to the stage for the first time at that club because she felt like it was an art form that needed to be respected more. Here's a quote from an interview Marie did with Ebony magazine in 1950. I wanted to make the strip more of a dance and less of a come on to give the stripper more art and more dignity. End quote. Period. As the 1950s rolled in, Marie relocated to London to star in a show called High Spirits. In her free time, she decided to record music. So in her shows and her performances, she always sang and danced, mainly when she was with Duke Ellington, I believe, but she just had never performed in a studio before, or recorded in a studio, rather. She recorded a few calypso and swing songs. I believe all of her songs are available on Amazon. Yeah, I think so. So if y'all want to stream them, go listen to them. Marie then decided to explore and perform internationally, booking shows all over Europe and Southeast Asia. Probably wondering when she found time to do anything for her personal life. Like the woman, like I said, y'all, I warned y'all, she literally worked for like 10 years straight. She did nothing else. So she didn't have much of a personal life, I don't think. But during the time she was on her international world tour doing all those shows, she met John Rajakumar, who managed one of the shows that she performed in. The two got married in 1952, going on a honeymoon across India, and later settled down in Europe. Unfortunately, John fell ill in 1965 and passed away shortly after. After John's tragic passing, Marie moved back to the States, specifically going back and forth between LA and Las Vegas. She opened her own dance studio, the Marie Bryant Dance Studios, still performed in musicals, and choreographed many shows in Vegas. Sadly, at only 59 years old, Marie died of cancer in 1978, leaving behind one daughter and 3 grandchildren. So that is the mini story, the mini version of the great Marie Bryant, y'all. One of the best to ever do it. One of the best Black burlesque dancers, one of the best Black showgirls. I'll make sure I post some really good photos of her, so make sure y'all follow us on Instagram at the Vixen Memoirs. Now we're going to get into our next and final mini-sode subject. Don't forget to stay tuned at the end because I'm not going to stop there. But now we'll move on to our next mini-sode subject, Azizi Johari, model, actress, and former Playmate. Azizi Johari was born on August 24th, 1948 in New York City. Now, let me note here, y'all, Azizi is not her birth name, and I'm not exactly sure what her birth name is. I was looking for it, and I couldn't find it. And honestly, I probably could have hunted it down if I really, really wanted to know. But I do feel like when people go this hard to hide their real name, I just feel like it's not appropriate to like go looking for it and put it out there, if you know what I mean. So I'm just going to let her be Azizi. But I will tell you guys how she came up with her name. So Azizi was very, very good friends with the famous jazz player Herbie Hancock. And he told her that her birth name just didn't fit her. He was just like, it doesn't fit your personality. Like, no. So I'm guessing it was something that was like, I don't know, like Katie or something. I don't know. I'm just guessing. So he's like, yeah, your name doesn't fit your personality. So that's where she got the idea to change it. So her full name is Swahili. Azizi means precious or rare, and Johari means jewel. So it's like rare jewel, precious jewel. Fun fact about me, my name is inspired. It's not the exact word, but my name is inspired by the Swahili word imani, which means faith. My mom just put a K in front of it. So if y'all don't know that, my name is Kimani. But anyway, back to Azizi. Azizi's family is Creole, and she was one of the darkest people in her family. She jokingly referred to herself as the black sheep of the family as a reference to her skin color. Growing up as a dark-skinned girl, Azizi developed a sense of strength. Throughout her career, Azizi refused to compromise herself and consistently spoke about knowing your worth as a Black woman. For my dark-skinned listeners, or just my listeners in general, y'all know growing up as a dark-skinned Black girl is a very, very unique experience. And Azizi grew up in, the 50s and 60s. So, and dark-skinned girls are still going through that today. Feeling inadequate or being teased and things like that. So I do think a lot of dark-skinned women do develop a strong sense of strength just from, how it is going through childhood being dark-skinned. I know when I read this part of her story, I was like, oh, I definitely relate to that. It made it that much more important to advocate for myself as an adult. So I totally felt her on this. Azizi's father was in the military, resulting in the family moving around the States a lot before eventually settling in Seattle, where Azizi grew up. In high school, her and her friends started a group called the Marvels. The girls put out a single called Call Me Back, which ended up being a local hit. I love when stuff like that happens. Like, I love those songs that nobody knows except for people who are from where you're from, like a, if you know thing. Being from DC, we have a lot of songs like that. So I just feel like because Azizi had this kind of success when she was younger, it was natural for her to become a star. Hey y'all, so I know we're all excited to come out of this pandemic and get back to our regular lives, but let's be honest, we've been through a lot these last 2 years. You might feel like you need to step back, reassess, process it all, set new goals, or just talk to somebody. I was feeling the exact same way, and I just had my very first session with my new life coach, Tola Maria. I ain't gonna lie, y'all, I was nervous, but Tola made the space very comfortable. I felt safe, and I felt like I could be open and honest. Although she made me comfortable, she did not hold back, y'all. She definitely told me about myself. But it all felt really constructive. I got some good tips. It was definitely eye-opening and very much needed. Having a life coach is something that I think Black women can truly get a lot out of. So I've partnered with Tola Maria, life coach, to offer my listeners 12% off their bulk sessions when they use my code VIXEN. You can use this code on her website, which will be linked down in the show notes. And you can find her on Instagram at TMaria Life Coach. That's TMARIA Life Coach. And don't forget to use code VIXEN and let her know that I've sent you. As many young women in the 70s did, Azizi became a flight attendant. She moved to San Francisco and started working for United Airlines. She was with the company for a while, eventually getting a promotion from stewardess to reservation salesperson. At one point, she ran into an old friend who told her of a new theater group at Black Arts West and encouraged her to join. So Black Arts West was Seattle's first Black theater, opened by Douglas Q. Edmonds back in 1969. Azizi's first love was performing. She was in a girl group, so she jumped on the opportunity to join an acting troupe. After starring in A Raisin in the Sun, Black Girl, and Ladies in Waiting with Black Arts West, she landed a small part in McQ, a John Wayne detective movie. The movie was released in 1974, and Azizi just played, I think she was a hot dog girl at a stand, but she loved it so much, and she decided she was going to keep going out for acting roles. This movie and this experience just ignited something in Azizi, and it made her realize her true passion was acting. Around this time, Azizi and her iconic fro were casted to model for a poster called Supernatural Dreams, which was then put into print and sold for retail. So when Azizi posed for it, she really didn't think anything of it. She had no idea what it would lead to. I don't even think the people who shot this poster, who had the concept for it, I don't think they knew either, but it ended up being a huge hit. This is a really iconic photo of Azizi. I'll make sure I post it on the Instagram so you guys can see it. Little did she know, not only was the poster super popular, a certain Black superstar was obsessed with the photo. I'm gonna let y'all guess. Guess who, y'all? Let me pause for a second. The king of bad bitches, Sammy Davis Jr., owned the poster and brought it around with him while he was on tour, hanging it up in every single one of his dressing rooms, y'all. So first of all, if you've been listening to this podcast, you already know we have a running joke on here about Sammy Davis Jr. He is mentioned in every beautiful Black woman story from the 50s, well into the 80s. He is, somehow affiliated with every single one. So we have a joke about how many times he pops up or is mentioned on the podcast. And I'm going to share with y'all how many times he's been mentioned in the last year at the end. So make sure you stick around for that. But anyway, 2 years after Sammy started bringing the poster around, Azizi was introduced to one of the members of Sammy's band. This member of the band is you got to meet Sammy. He carries around a photo of you. He hangs it up everywhere. He's been doing it for years. So Azizi's like, what? Okay. So fun fact, before we get into that, the Supernatural Dreams poster is very, very central to a scene in The Shining. I don't know if you guys have ever seen it, but it's when the character, God, what is that character's name? Hold on, brief intermission. Let me go look it up. Okay, got it. So it's in the scene where that character named Dick is watching TV in bed. You can't miss it. But anyway, back to Azizi meeting Sammy. Here's a quote from her about how they were introduced. It just so happened that Sammy was looking for a dancer at the time I found out about his hang-up with my poster. He took one look at me in the flesh, and that was that. I was hired on a Sunday and was working in St. Louis with him on Monday. End quote. So Sammy was like, yes, he had already been obsessed with her, the digital version, the poster version rather, for 2 years. So of course he was going to make sure that she never left his sight. So now Azizi is officially a member of his acting troupe, and they toured all over the country. Shortly after she joined, the two started dating. So the show that they were doing at this time was full of skits. Some of them were scripted and some of them were improv. The particular one that Azizi was in was an ad-lib skit where she would go on stage between musical numbers as like a waitress, and she was dressed in a long tight gown and a 6-inch pair of platform heels. It was the 70s, y'all, so y'all know they was platforms. She would bring Sammy a drink and he would hit on her, and then he would try to like lift her up, like basically pick her up. Here's Azizi describing it. Then Sammy tries to pick me up. In those platforms, I stand about 6 feet to his 5 feet 2. First, he tries the Latin lover approach, then the soul sister routine, but I always put him down. That's what gets the laughs, end quote. In between touring with Sammy Davis Jr., which I believe she did for years, Azizi acted in films and shows like Dreamer, The $6 Million Man, Seed of Innocence, Exit Sunset Boulevard, Body and Soul, and of course, The Killing of a Chinese Bookie, which you guys might have seen or definitely know her for. This is probably Azizi's biggest role yet, most iconic role yet, and the one that she is most known for. Even if you haven't seen the movie in full, you've definitely seen her in this movie, if you know what I mean. The screen grabs are very, very popular all over the internet, especially on Tumblr, so I'm sure you guys have seen it. Azizi then went on to pose as a centerfold for Playboy's Playmate of the Month section. Published in the June 1975 issue, Azizi's centerfold was photographed by Ken Marcus. She was the 4th Black woman to ever be a Playmate. So these photos, and y'all know how I feel about Black women in Playboy. If y'all have been listening since the beginning, y'all know I love Black women in Playboy. The first episode was about the first Black woman in Playboy. So y'all know I have seen a lot of these spreads, and to me, Azizi's is the best. It's truly the best one for me. Her photos for this are perfect. Y'all can look them up and see them. I can't post them on Instagram, but keep in mind that they are not safe for work, okay? So do not go look them up while you're at work unless you're on your phone or something. It's Playboy. She's new, of course, but they are very tasteful. She looks angelic in them. Like, he captured her beautifully. He really did. I love how those photos were shot, and I just really appreciate how Playboy captures Black women in general, just as far as like lighting and all of that stuff. It just looks really good. After the June spread, Azizi appeared in Playboy at least 10 more times. I'm pretty sure it was even more than that. She continued with both acting and modeling, often modeling in advertisements and for other posters. She also posed on EP covers and promotional covers for artists like Leon Ware, Sun, and Stevie Wonder. She even was a playable character in a late 80s video game called Dungeon Master, where she was herself, so the character's name was Azizi. As for acting, she later snagged a small role in the very first Rocky movie, and she appeared in a few Richard Pryor TV specials. And today, Azizi lives a pretty quiet life. I know that she lives back in her hometown, Seattle, but I couldn't find much else about what she does. I feel like she just like minds her business and is super chill, which I'm about to get into now. I'm going to end on a quote from an interview where Azizi talks about her early acting roles. Here we go. It's a really strange contradiction. On one hand, I'm a confirmed introvert, overprotective of my privacy. On the other hand, I want to be a star, end quote. So I wanted to share that quote because I feel like that kind of makes sense as far as the way her career went. Like, she's very mysterious to me, although she was super, super popular. And then once she stopped being in stuff, like, maybe in like the early to mid 80s, people just like did not see her again. I know she appeared in like a Playboy documentary, I believe, or a book or something like that. I'll try to find out what it was so I can share it with you guys. But she just kind of like went on to live her life. I wonder what she did. I think she was just like, I'm done. It wasn't like one of those things where, you know, someone like really just like milks it for all it's worth and then they kind of fade to black once they can't squeeze anything out of it anymore. She just kind of went on about her own. And I wanted to share that quote because I was hesitant to do an episode on Azizi. Like, this was supposed to be a full episode, just like the Marie Bryant one. But I was hesitant because there just wasn't a lot of information available about Azizi, not her early life, not her personal life, really anything. So I knew it would be hard to like get a full episode out of it. But like I said earlier, I don't think that just because there's not a lot of information, people don't deserve to be talked about on this podcast and that they don't deserve to be celebrated. So I will continue to just try to find ways where I can like talk about these women who I don't have enough material for full episodes, but I can still include them in like, an episode like this where we're talking about multiple people. So yeah, I just feel like there's something really, really nice about her having such a sexy image, but yet being super private and mysterious. And like, I felt like that made her even more attractive to people. You see her photos, but you don't really see anything else. It's like, she seems in interviews, I've watched her and like, she seems so composed, so confident and so smart, but like she gives just enough without giving too much. I don't know. I'm going to post one of her interviews on Instagram because I want y'all to know what I mean. I feel like y'all are probably like, what? But like, she answers the question, but it's still like vague, but it's not in a way where like it feels secretive. It's just kind of cool. I don't know. I feel like I have a habit of oversharing when people ask me a question. So I just kind of love that about her, but I'll make sure that I share an interview of her. So yeah, that is the Azizi Johari mini-sode. Okay, y'all. So since we are at the end of the episode, I thought we would close it out with just a couple of fun questions that I kind of wrote down that I thought would be funny to ask myself. I haven't thought about these beforehand. I actually just thought of even doing this like while I was recording. So I was like, maybe I'll like just ask myself these at the end. So here we go. The first one I came up with is, what is my least favorite episode of the podcast? We've done 4. We're in season 4. We're at the halfway mark of season 4. So that's 10, 30. I've done like 40 episodes now, I think. I don't know, something like that. Y'all know I can't do math. Okay. My least favorite episode of this show is definitely Ananda Lewis's episode. And I'll keep it real with y'all. I don't feel like I ended that episode the right way. So to me, I didn't do my best. Although I think it was good from top to bottom almost. I don't like the ending because I couldn't find much else. And I felt like I could have written a more dynamic ending and I just didn't. So that one to me is the worst. Honestly, I love all of my episodes, but if I had to choose the one that I like the least, it would be that. I'm the kind of person, like, if I don't like something, I wouldn't put it out. So it's not like I hate the episode. It's just, it's not my favorite. But in my defense, that I wrote the first, and I think I've told you guys this before, I wrote the first 5 episodes, I think, before I even knew what format the show was going to be in. I didn't know if it was going to be a podcast or what it was going to be. And then I wrote them all and then I recorded them, and I didn't know, I had decided at that point that it would be a podcast, but I didn't know what my style would be or how it would sound. I was honestly just playing around. And I think that's why it came off like that. If I was to write the Ananda story today, I feel like it would be completely different. The ending would have been way better. So for me, that is my least favorite episode. Now I'll ask myself what my favorite episode is. So my favorite episode of the podcast is probably the ones that are sticking out to me are 3. Here's my top 3. The Buffy the Body episode, which is in season 1, I believe. The Nicole Narain episode, also in season 1. And the Patra episode, which I believe is in season 3. Yeah, those are my favorite episodes. I think out of the 3, if I had to pick one, probably Nicole Narain. And I feel like mainly because that was a story where I got to talk about a lot of other subjects that could be considered taboo. Like, we talked about sex tapes, and then I went on and did that episode about Mel B, her sex tape scandal. So we got to talk about the way sex tapes affect Black women, and just a couple other things just about like sexuality, using sexuality for upward mobility, specifically when it pertains to Black women. So I think like that's not something that I see talked about a lot, at least not in a way that feels unbiased. So I was glad that we got to talk about that, and I still get messages about that episode. I actually did a live show based around that series because I got so many messages about it. So I'm glad that you guys got something out of it. So I think that's why I would probably choose that as my number 1. What is my favorite series or 2-part episode that I've done. And I like all of them. It would either be the Corinne Steffens, because that was a 2-part episode in season 2. And then the other one would be the Instagram baddie episodes that I did last season, and I did 3 of those. You know what? Because there were 3 of those, I'm gonna say that one was my best. Yeah. The Instagram baddie one was really good. That was another one that opened up a lot of conversation with y'all, and I was really, really happy about that we got to just speak candidly about that. And you guys have so many varying opinions on that kind of stuff, just everything about the Instagram baddie and how it's changed from Instagram's inception to now, to what we see now. And I like that we can all have like dialogue on that and not, disagree or get mad. I did get some hate messages about that though. I think I had to address that in the 3rd version, and that's kind of why I did that bonus episode. 1, because there were other topics I wanted to touch on that I didn't get to in part 1 and 2, and then also because I wanted to like add a little disclaimer and talk about like the confusion that people had. But I did get like a couple messages about that. I just think it's something that a lot of Black women, like, we have a lot of respectability politics floating around still, and some people just don't want to hear certain things, but we be having to talk about it. But I do think like you guys have great attitudes on that, and I like when we can all discuss things, have dialogue, and not have it turn into a cat fight. So it was kind of cool to get my first hate messages. But no, I really like that series, and I'm glad y'all liked it too. Now I am going to leave you guys with, drumroll please, how many times has Sammy Davis Jr.'s name come up on this podcast? So y'all, Sammy Davis Jr. has been mentioned on this podcast over the course of a year 8 separate times. That's hilarious because I rarely even talk about men. So it's like, unless it's someone's like, like husband or boyfriend or something like that. So the way that he has managed to finagle his way on this show 8 times is beyond me. That's why I call him the king of bad bitches. He knew all the bad bitches. He was friends with them. He dated them. He knew them. He helped them. It is what it is with Mr. Sammy Davis Jr. So it's 8 times, y'all. Make sure y'all keep count for next year's show. For next year's anniversary show, we'll see how much he comes up in next year's. So yeah, I'm going to end the episode here. I want you guys to know, if you ever want to send me a submission, a note, whatever it is, you can DM me on Instagram at the Vixen Memoirs, or you can email me at VIXENPODCAST@gmail.com. Just thank you guys again for an amazing year. Thank you for supporting the book club. Thank you for supporting the Instagram and the Instagram shows. I really, really appreciate y'all. I know that we were supposed to get merch this summer, but y'all, life happened. Life be lifing like it does, and that is coming soon. I will have that for y'all in the next few months, the coming months. So stay tuned. Just wait on it. And again, I don't think I said this in the beginning. Thank y'all for supporting the Zola episode. That was my first kind of like, sponsored work that I've done other than my ad placements and stuff. So I really appreciate you guys just interacting with that, listening to that episode. And I got a ton of nice messages about that episode. I'm so glad y'all enjoyed it. But yes, I do this for y'all. I do this for the culture. Love y'all to the moon and back. Thank you for an amazing year. And I will see y'all on next week's episode. Bye. Thank you for listening to Vixen. If you liked today's episode, don't forget to leave a review. If you have a submission, feel free to email VIXENPODCAST@gmail.com. We'll be back next week with an all new episode.